Will the president accept the results of November's elections?
Look, Ed, you should tune into the president's speech tonight before you jump ahead to conclusions.
Here's what's going to happen tonight. The world's most famous sore loser will deliver a primetime presidential sour grapes address to pursue his 6-year-old grievances about the 2020 election, while his war in the Middle East spirals out of control and the cost of living continues to rise for Americans across the country.
Trump's set to address the nation tonight. He sent out his chief propagandist to do his bidding before said address. An address that, well, at the time this video was recorded, it hasn't yet secured a primetime slot on many major television networks. Well, Caroline Leavitt's appearance didn't go to plan either.
I switch to Iran, please,
sure.
And specifically the Manab school attack. 120 children dead, 26 of their teachers. A Sky News investigation released today points to all this being a tragic mistake by America, by the US military. So could you explain, please, why the president is repeatedly saying it wasn't America when he hasn't actually, he says also that he hasn't even seen the report?
I can't speak to the Sky News investigation respectfully because I have not read it. All I can speak to is what the president has said as I speak on his behalf, and the investigation continues, and we would defer you to the Department of War.
To releasing the findings of this investigation?
I don't think anybody's going to ever be able to say what happened there, because if they don't know by now, and as of a couple of weeks ago they didn't know, and while things like that happen in war, there are missiles flying all over the place, and I don't know how anybody could say that we shot it.
With election integrity bound to be the focus of his late night televised ramblings, instead of, the usual toilet seat truth social posts, Leavitt faced off with an NBC News reporter on the topic of elections and how, it's a funny old system that it seems to be working fine whenever Trump wins and is never questioned. But when he loses, all bets are off.
To the degree that this speech tonight is about elections past, not elections upcoming, the 2020 election has had dozens of recounts, lawsuits, audits. 2024 election widely believed to be safe and secure. There's not really any question about that. A lot of people look at this.
Because it was too big to rig?
Well, I think a lot of people look at this.
There's a massive amount of votes for this president. That's why he's in the Oval Office right now.
No one disputes that. And there were a significant amount of votes for Joe Biden, who won in 2020. I think the question is, why is the president unable to let this go?
Well, first of all, Garrett, I think part of the problem is that the media has refused to acknowledge that tens of millions of Americans across the country share the concerns of this president about the sanctity of our elections. And your premise of your question, you're jumping ahead to a conclusion in this speech before even hearing it yourself. I think that everyone should tune in tonight, including the people in this room, and you should report on the president's speech and the findings that he is going to reveal in this speech with a little bit of honesty and a little bit of integrity, because it will shock you if you have an honest eye listening to the president tonight, and everything he is saying will be backed by facts and by evidence that will be provided this evening. And again, Garrett, I think all Americans, Democrat, Republican, should agree that we are the greatest country in the history of the world. We should have the safest and most secure elections in the history of the world. And what the president will be speaking about tonight will show you that perhaps that is not the case, and we need to make some adjustments moving forward.
Donald Trump is scheduled to deliver what the White House is calling an address to the nation from the East Room. It's a primetime slot at 9 p.m. and even though it's yet to be confirmed that much of the nation will actually be watching, kind of like his rallies, actually.
And sometimes the pictures really don't tell the full story, because if you look behind us, you see, okay, there are a couple hundred people back there, but the truth is, when you make your way over here and you're in a wash of people.
Oh my God. Ouch. Okay, so if you can see what's going on right behind me, big, open, grassy area. Conservative commentator Jonah Goldberg responded to that, writing, quote, "If only they had employees who knew how to operate cameras that could capture these images," he describes.
Hours before the speech, America's major television networks had still not committed to carrying it live. ABC were non-committal, as well as NBC, CBS, and CNN. Even Fox News, the network normally willing to broadcast Trump reading from a Cheesecake Factory menu if he promises to call it historic, they had not yet confirmed they would interrupt their regular scheduled propaganda to air it. Now, of course, I expect that to change, right? But isn't it sort of humiliating that hours before this big address, the nation's broadcasters have effectively responded by saying, is there perhaps a way this could be an email instead? This follows the decades-old tale, right, of the boy who cried wolf. How can anyone react to Trump's presidential address with urgency when many are already planning their inevitable fact check to the old tiresome tropes that he's bound to speak about? It shows that any sort of appeal he had, he's lost, and he's hell-bent on slaughtering a dead horse.
You ever hear the fake news? They say, that's an 80-20 issue. No, it's not. It's 99-1. You know, I've been doing politics now for 10 years. Not that long, considering I've won 3 elections, you know, so but we did great in the second one. It was a rigged deal.
His elections are rigged narrative is back on the menu as we head towards the midterms. Why? Because could it be poll after poll has him underwater? Republican lawmakers are out here panicking.
Say, I am on the ballot, because in a real sense he is. If we were to lose the midterms, heaven forbid, these Democrats, y'all, impeachment's not even the big concern. They will turn every committee of Congress into an investigative body, and they'll go after the president's family, the cabinet, his donors and friends. Half of you in this room will be targeted. I run the protection program. I'll take care of you, okay? We're going to win. We're going to win the midterm.
Not to mention that he continues to try and attach his SAVE Act to every bill. It torpedoes it because it's politically toxic. I mean, the desperation is evident. The White House have described the subject as free and fair elections, and Trump has promised a major announcement about election security and possible foreign interference. But he's also spent nearly 6 years pushing false and repeatedly debunked claims about the 2020 election. So of course the networks are facing a dilemma. Do they carry a presidential address live knowing that it may become a primetime delivery for misinformation? Or do they refuse knowing that Trump will inevitably retaliate and accuse them of censorship? Either way, it tells you how dramatically Trump has degraded the meaning of a presidential address.
A terrible thing, but we had the greatest economy in history. And before COVID, nobody had ever seen anything like it. But if you just took those 3 years and look at what we're doing now, we're going to blow them away. I mean, unless some horrible event happens, which is always possible, you know, we always have to at least think about the horrible events. Who would have thought that COVID could have happened? A thing like that could have happened. But we delivered 100% expensing, and that expensing, I think, we write it off in 1 year. I have friends that bought things that, frankly, they didn't need. I have a friend that never flew on a private plane in his life, and he ended up going out buying a very expensive private plane because of expensing 1 year.
And Trump is the only one to blame for this credibility problem. He spent the aftermath of 2020 claiming that the result had been stolen. His allies filed lawsuits. Those lawsuits failed repeatedly. Election officials, many of them Republicans, said the result was legitimate. And whenever he is pressed with the lack of substantive evidence to back up his sweeping allegations, he runs, he hides, he attacks the source.
It's cheating on the election.
You lost the 2020 election.
Brett, you take a look at all of the stuffed ballots. You take a look at all of the things, including things like the 51 intelligence agents.
There were recounts in all of the swing states. There was not significant widespread
We're trying to get recounts, real recounts, not just numbers of votes
widespread
cast.
corruption. There was not a sense of that. There were lawsuits, more than 50 of them, by your lawyers, some in front of judges that you appointed.
Look at Wisconsin.
That came out with no evidence.
Wisconsin has practically admitted it was rigged. Other states are doing the same right now, and it's continuing on.
There have been reviews of every potential case of voter fraud in 6 battleground states, and they found fewer than 475 cases.
You know why? Because they didn't look at the right things.
Okay,
Brad.
are you
know that these elections are rigged? Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But, Mr. President,
you know why I got that? Because you have no credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about, I want to talk about Todd
You
Blanche.
have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk
Your
about...
elections in this country, we're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC.
and CBS and CNN.
But Mr. President,
Your one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've sat in the rain with you for an hour,
Wisconsin.
on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr.
A
President,
country can never be great with a dishonest
Listen,
press.
we
Come on,
traveled
let's go.
all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
And TV networks are aware that this comes at a cost, right? As I mentioned, Fox News agreed to pay Dominion Voting nearly $800 million to settle a defamation case concerning false claims about the 2020 election. The judge in that case had already ruled that the disputed Dominion claims were false. Fox acknowledged that ruling when it announced the settlement. Newsmax later reached its own settlement with Dominion. So when networks look at tonight's address, they are not dealing with an abstract debate over free speech. They are remembering that election misinformation has already generated massive legal exposure for broadcasters.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.